Web3 Media friends, welcome. This is the L2 edition, late night, working the side hustle here in Web3, waiting for renders on the edit bay. So this is what I do. This is a bit old school. It's a throwback back to like 2021. But a lot of talk has been happening about IP and, Luca Nets and the Pudgy Penguins, and there's so much talk, and I'm curious about the FUD, but I just wanted to take a look at what it means to have IP rights in a project and try and examine. We won't get to the hard dollar value here because we're watching this fun cartoon, but we're definitely going to talk about the prospects and why there was such great anticipation for Pudgy Penguins after this release. This was released about 2 months ago now, in early December, in an announcement of the Pudgy World experience, digital experience. And so, it's a nice, well done. They went to a nice house to make something. They tried to have a good light tone with it. And we'll talk about what this led me to believe. Like, I didn't jump right in. And I'm a big fan of Luca and all the Pudgy Penguins. But I didn't jump in, and we'll talk about why. And we'll also talk about looking forward what the value potentially could be, because there's a lot of misconceptions being thrown and bandied about. And I might have something to say about it because, hey, I worked for a studio and the head of an agency, so I know a lot of very good IP and what to look for. And certainly, these little guys have a lot of potential. But there's been a lot of talk about what type of potential that is. There's this this graph that's been tossed about here from the weirdest source ever, I think. But let's take a look at it. You may have seen this. Let me try and get a clearer thing there for you guys, because that is, and pop me out. See, I'm sort of squished right now, but we're going vertical this year because we're live on Instagram. We're going to be live on TikTok hopefully soon. But being able to, if you're on your phone, your mobile, just go ahead and tap, and then I pop out. Or if you're on your laptop, go ahead and just pop me out on the lower right there. Everybody's been looking at this chart here, the Pokemon, Hello Kitty, Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse, Star Wars chart. Again, I want to center this better for you guys, but it's just not accommodating in this. But if you pop me out, hey, maybe it'll be a bit better. But it's examining these top franchises, and it sort of conflagrates like all of them together, like Pokemon and Hello Kitty and Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse and Star Wars. And it's a great list, but I think what's really interesting, and this thing is meant to do, because I do doubt the numbers. I question the numbers. Even if you just do a tertiary Wikipedia search, you find a whole different set of numbers. But here you have a good bar graph, and the yellow is made to represent merchandise. And that is the power of this graph, and I think why a lot of Pudgy Penguin fans like to look at this one, because it does show and show off the example of the highest grosser of this type of merchandising and marketing, which is Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is probably the closest in terms of style of IP, because when you're looking at Harry Potter, we know what came first there. When we're looking at Super Mario Brothers, we know what came first there. Star Wars, we know what came first there. Even Mickey Mouse, we know that that has recently crossed into the public domain, and we know what came first there. That I don't think that Pudgy Penguins animation was the representation of what's to come. But Hello Kitty does have a similar feel to it, because Hello Kitty started from design. So Sanrio, I mean, if we look into some of the history of Sanrio, it didn't start off, the TV show came many years later. So it started off with let's pull up this, and again, let's double check our facts here. I just use this one because it does have a lot of good graphic representation of the Hello Kitty story, and the designer, the original designer, who recently, about a year or two ago, came forward and said, no, she's not a kitty, but her name's Hello Kitty. She's a girl. And so they shut her up quite quick because she was affecting sales. But looking at the history of it, it started with the coin purse, and it started with design within a company for a coin purse that captured the Japanese kawaii culture, the cute culture, the super flat, which is kind of what is being made fun of contemporarily and postmodern. But you have the initial love and joy for Hello Kitty came with merchandise, and that merchandise was super cute, and it had a lot of a butt ton of sales, right? And I think that that's part of. I'm going to share this really quick. A lot of those sales contributed to the growth of that brand, and so that brand grows when you have significant sales. And I think that that's what Pudgy Penguins are starting with. They're starting with an amazing marketing push, along with partner in retail with Walmart. You have all the holders going in and making a big deal of buying all of the penguins and creating a bit of a buzz around the central property. And I think that that's part of why you see the floor price, going high. I don't talk much about floor price, but it's certainly an indicator of how exciting a project is demonstrating it is at the moment. And so when you have the way that it's been going, and then there's been a bit of a curtail in the last couple of days because of maybe some letdown in like, oh, my IP rights aren't as enriching as I thought. It's a bit short-sighted, really. I think they're doing a really fantastic job of promoting what they have, and what they have done is they've made the licensing a bit easier. I'm going to pull up an example here of the new licensing agreements. They've made it a portal. I think it's a smart idea to create a portal that has the opportunities, that are very, very clear. Like, here's the agreements, because there is certainly a lot of friction when it comes to like, oh, you want mine? You want to do something with mine? Okay, well then, what am I getting? And so there's a lot of people who don't maybe have unrealistic expectations when that comes like, oh, you want to put mine in the cartoon? Well, I'm going to need like $500 million. And so they've tried to simplify the process to make it easier for them. So basically you're kind of submitting, this casting, you're submitting yourself. In casting, they do this sometimes. If you're going up for a big TV show, sometimes they make you sign the contract before you step in the room, so that if they want you, they have you. And there is no, oh, you know what? Now that you want me, I'm going to like really jack up my price. There's a negotiation. And I think Pudgy Penguins has found a way to make it feel at least in the holder's control, where you go to the site and it seems like you just kind of pick and choose which types of opportunities you'd like your penguin to be considered for. And then, they will come in and choose, etc. Definitely, much cleaner. I think that, when it comes to things like ape water, etc., I've had a great conversation, a couple of conversations with the heads of ape water, and how, brilliant the job that they are doing. It's not solely based on the sales because of apes, like, going out there and buying the water. They've actually had to market themselves in the world and have found, their own niche and their own success. And so while certain projects have become great launch pads, I think that Pudgy is demonstrating how to be considerably considerate to your holders in that type of success, in that central success, because that's, as valuable as your IP gets, in terms of like top value. It's just like, well, it's like, does everybody know the name? Does everybody have a brand recognition, not just in the space, but now, growing out into the world of the normies? What is that value? It becomes very, very nebulous. But certainly when you see steps towards licensing like this, a nice little explainer video of why they did it, and the sort of he calls it friction involved, was just let's just make this easy for them to license, to go to partners and say, okay, great, you want to do a video game, here's your list of characters that you can choose from, and these are the pre-negotiated fees that you would owe in that scenario if you were to choose 12 characters, etc. And so I think they're doing a really nice job, and certainly doing it in this space. It's very challenging. Again, there's a lot of weird expectations about things like this, but as it grows, as they get to the animated series, as they get to these sort of things, there's going to be a lot of outweighed, expectations of like, well, my penguin's in there, so that's $5 million, right? It's just like, so I think everybody wants to be involved, and certainly, there's a lot of, for me, there's a lot of predatory action going on right now. So do be careful who you're submitting these things to. There are people out there right now who are like, oh yeah, I'm thinking of doing something. Go ahead and drop your penguin down below. If you want me to consider your thing and to be included, well, where does that go? Who knows? Because as cute as they may be, I always have to bring up the contrarian view, which is, in my mind, it's always been deadheads. Deadheads, if you recall this one, Gary Vee loved the hell out of deadheads. It was, they're just very, they were very cute at the time. They were very, they were in 3D, so they had, an edge to them at the time that you can kind of see like, oh, wow, these are interesting characters. And I can kind of see the world that, is conveyed and portrayed with these characters. And so they, kind of took their earnings in the NFT mint and they made an animated series, and they were one of the first to do it. Super exciting for them. But at the very end of the day, here you go. You can go there now to the website. I'll post it down below, deadheads.io. But you can kind of get a sense of, had a really fun experience by having these characters go through. No, it's not playing. Let me try and rectify this so that you can see. They had the boarding.
Maybe I can steal that boat.
So I don't know if they asked permission or just like it was sort of nebulous enough and nondescript enough that they were able to utilize something that looked like the yacht club. But they went even further and they actually used, maybe they had to have asked permission. So they, built this all out. And again, guys, this is early days. This is over 2 years ago. And even used an ape in this story.
Might as well travel in style.
And so they came in with funding, IP, using apes, the biggest IP at the time, the labs, really having
make it more boring.
YC there.
That's more.
Utilizing them in this animation.
Get me more bananas, dumbhead.
On paper.
Right away,
this
my
looks
liege.
like, knock it out of the park.
I like how she calls me her liege. It's the boring things that make her
But you can already
good
get a
at the
sense of the
job.
pacing.
You just don't
Maybe
see
it's the pacing of the
service
yacht
like
club
that
that's
very often.
meant to be nice and slow.
Those
But it's
stoner cats
certainly,
we kidnapped ended up costing me gas
one that
for
is
the
nicely
yacht because they got high and
rendered in
didn't
terms of
fuel
you
it
can
up
see the artist
properly.
here doing a really
They
great
also
job with the
smell
animation.
like a blooming
You can see the
corpse
limitations
flower.
though of that
What the hell
budget
is
in
going on
action. Some of the reuse of things. You can tell the style had to be curtailed a bit just because of the cost to animate. And so, there's a lot of really great tricks being used here, and no FUD. They went about it and they did it. But my holdback from that era, that time, was the story wasn't there. They must have not had, maybe a writer who had very, very loose experience.
Where is it?
Because a lot of people believe that they can write. They believe that they can come into
Hey,
a scenario
Oh
and
my
they
God.
could,
What
come
are
up
you
with
doing?
something
Who
much like
are
we saw in
you?
that
my
penguin
name is
thing. No
Damien.
FUD again.
I don't know what
That was
happened.
very,
I thought
very
I died.
super
I mean,
simple,
I'm pretty
and to
sure
the
I
point
died. I
where
was
it
in this, like,
wasn't, it was nowhere
purgatory
near
place.
What?
Pixar
Slow down.
leveling
What are you
of
saying?
engagement, right?
I
But
don't
that's just due
know.
to story.
I found
The
a-
animation and stuff, that was fine. It has a lot less to do with the perfection of the animation, the perfection of the visuals, to entail some sort of relationship. But here you can see it's just so drawn out.
Got to hurry.
What's
and
going
they're,
on?
They're
I
kind
don't
of chasing
understand.
after
I don't
things you have
understand
no
either.
clue, but they're making it like
Should we hide?
this
I don't even know your
immediacy
name.
that's going on, but you don't
Clara,
quite know
we
what's
don't have
going
time
on.
to hide.
It's
Listen,
not clear.
the other day I was
They're
out on the
hoping
boat
it's
with
gonna be
the geese, and they
mysterious,
found this magical chest
but
at the bottom of
at
the
the end of the
bog.
day, that's
They said it
just,
had one of three keys
story
that could
making and
unlock a
stuff. And
paradise
so I think
unlike
they
any.
learned the hard way way back then, and ended up. I think they got. Let's see, how many episodes did they get? They got to 6 episodes 2 years ago, and I think it was a great effort, and I think everyone learned a lot from it, and certainly I did by following them very, very closely, along with a lot of other storytelling projects at the time who had some amazing writers that eventually left the projects. Glue Horse Factory had some really big writers from Saturday Night Live. I know a lot of you DGens out there who are on my friends list there. We were all there together, and it was a fun room, but you could see Colton Dunn, pieced out, right, very quick. I think a lot of negativity about the space sort of pressured them, as well as just opportunities. Emily Spivey is just she's an amazing writer. So she was on Saturday Night Live for a couple of years, and she's, had to go off and do a TV show. And so a lot of really talented people have been in this space, but nobody's been able to really articulate story well. We've been seeing a lot of great animation coming out of Yuga, especially those who are super well funded. 10K TF definitely, I think for most people, holds the high level watermark at this point, incorporating story into their visuals, because they have an amazing, talented team, and it's also a very tight and small team. This isn't a massive team. It's almost you're almost led to believe it's just like this massive production, but it's just a small group of really hardworking people who are super, super talented in these very specific ways. And they understand that story can evolve not just by putting all the money into the bucket of the animation, but also through these smaller iterations that they used to do on every Thursday. RIP Thursdays. Hope they come back with those Thursdays, because I still think that there's a lot of value towards the world building. But I think that's going to be changing now that they're moving to the other side. And once you have other side, maybe you have different levels of Thursdays that are a bit more about the social media aspect of what the metaverse could potentially mean to community engagement and community hanging out, doing other things every Thursday, building that story of Wag-Me-Son. So my render is about done. So I just wanted to pop in and chat really quick about IP and how to see value in IP. It's like there's a lot of value associated, but a lot of it's going to be unrealized because they're not going to trust storytellers. And so, but those that do, and those that stick with them, there's a lot of, FUD to be had pushing forward into the success of that in this space. But again, I think, when you look at, in retrospect, a lot of these projects, and I think we're still early when it comes to IP, we're going to be seeing a lot of value erupt from it. And I think that Pudgy Penguins are definitely doing the right things in order to not feel like you're missing out. There's definitely a lot of other projects out there. Put some down in the comment section. I'll take a look at them. But for the most part, you guys know my plays. And so when I'm looking at, specific projects, I'm looking for, these characters, as well as the world building. What does the world building look like? Is it understandable? Stan Lee told me, sat me down. He's just like, it's got to be understandable. I can have, Peter Parker shooting webs out of his arms, and he actually told me the whole cartridge thing versus the organic thing. But it's like you can have this character do that, but at the end of the day, Peter Parker, we understand, he loves Mary Jane, he cares about Aunt May. These are the things that sort of humanize story and bring it together in a very, very clear way. And most story, honestly, in this space gets very, very convoluted in a lot of different visions and a lot of people stirring the pot into something that doesn't make sense for anybody. And so those, I think, get through that. Parallel Alpha as well. Again, no financial advice here, but you look at sort of the world building. They've been doing this for years, guys. This is not some sort of spark of the moment thing either. This is years of world building and saying okay, great. If we were to have, these different factions of people go to the, one goes to the moon, one goes to Mars, and they evolve in a very different way and they come back to Earth, they're going to be different people. They're just going to have different mentalities, different political associations in terms of what their priorities are in terms of a society. It's a really beautiful, rich idea. And so there's a couple of those out there, and I'd love to discover more. So please put down in the comment section some more, and I'll see you next time.